Welcome, everyone, to the Splash City Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hartman, and this is the official March Madness kickoff show. Right now, I'm recording Tuesday, March 17th. I got my green on. It's St. Patty's Day, enjoying a Guinness tonight. And UMBC and Howard have officially kicked off the NCAA men's basketball tournament. So I'll talk a little bit about that and games to watch. I'm going to break down one game in each region that I am excited to talk about and I'm excited to watch this weekend. Our guest on today's show is Andrew Dukowitz from Zone Coverage, covers the Lynx, Wolves, and Gopher women's basketball. And we'll talk about the Gopher Women hosting the first two rounds at Williams Arena this weekend, Friday and Sunday. They open with Green Bay on Friday night at 5 p.m. In the other matchup on Friday, you have Ole Miss and Gonzaga. So the winners will play Sunday at Williams Arena. So exciting times, big progress for that program. They haven't been to a tournament in about 8 years. So this is a good step in the right direction for Don Plitzowite and her team, and led by Minnesotans Mala Braun, Amaya Battle, Tori McKinney, and Sophie Hart. So exciting weekend over at Williams Arena in Dinkytown for the University of Minnesota Gopher women's basketball team. I also wanted to let everyone know, and if you hadn't heard, St. Thomas made the NIT tournament. They open tonight, Tuesday night at 9 p.m. in Seattle against Seattle University, members of the West Coast Conference. And Gopher men are invited to the Crown Invitational out in Las Vegas starting in April, where they will take on Baylor in their first matchup. So local teams still getting to play some basketball. We got state boys tournament next weekend as well. And I did want to quickly plug, if you're in the area, if you're in the metro and the West Metro specifically, Thursday, opening day of March Madness, the official kind of opening day, the round of 64, I will be at Back Channel Brewing in Spring Park, Minnesota, um, with a live stream podcast. Come on out, enjoy a beverage. There's a food truck. They got a giant big screen TV. They do a lot of Vikings watch parties. They've done Wolves playoff watch parties out there. So it's a great place to watch a game. Hopefully the weather warms up and we can get outside a little bit as well. I have some new Splash City merch. If you want to check that out, stop by. We'll talk anything and everything related to March Madness and the opening weekend. So come on out Thursday. It'll be great. The other one I wanted to plug, Thursday, NDSU takes on Michigan State. For a lot of fans in the region, NDSU making the dance for the sixth time in their history. And I had an interview with head coach Dave Richman recently, so check that podcast out too. Dave's a great guy, a lot of great stuff, and has built his program the right way with a lot of great young men. So easy to root for the Bison Thursday against Michigan State and Tom Izzo. But with that, let's get into it. All right, I'm going to pick a game to watch in every region of the NCAA men's basketball tournament, and I'm going to start with the East region. Duke is the 1 seed, and I don't see a ton of really, things that stand out to me. I think St. John's is going to take care of business against Northern Iowa. I think Kansas is talented enough to get by Cal Baptist as well. I love Flory Badunga, and inside defensive presence. Him and Bryson Tiller, I think, are just too much for Cal Baptist. And Kansas, I don't know what to expect from them from their guards, but I do know that Badunga is going to show up. So, UCLA, UCF could be an interesting game, but I'm going with South Florida, Louisville. I think a lot of people are kind of on this one. Louisville's been up and down. They're 4-4 in their last 8. South Florida plays a very frenetic pace, and I think their coach going home he's from the Western New York. This is being played in Buffalo, and he talked about what it meant for his dad. I think his team is going to be pretty amped for that one. And so I got South Florida beating Louisville. That's kind of the one in the East region in the first round. Now, second round, things get real fun. Duke is going to play either Ohio State or TCU. Now, TCU, they have played, they lost to Michigan in a close game. They've beaten Iowa State. They've got some really good wins. TCU is capable of beating anyone. And Ohio State obviously has played in the Big Ten. They're tested. They played Michigan and Purdue and Illinois. So that the winner of that game against Duke will be interesting, especially because Caleb Foster's out for Duke. Patrick Gungba, I'm sure Duke would love to get another a full week of rest for him. He didn't play in the ACC tournament. And if they can get through 2 games without having to play Gangba and have him healthy for Sweet 16 weekend, I think they'd feel great, but I think they might need him in that second round matchup. Then you get St. John's and Rick Pitino against Kansas and Bill Self, 2 outstanding coaches. That one would be amazing. And if you go down further in that bracket, you get Michigan State. I think they'll sneak by North Dakota State against South Florida and UCLA and UConn. Tons of big brands, tons of big names. The East region, starting in that second round and on, should be fantastic. Let's keep on going down that bracket. I got Florida's region. They are in the South. And the game to watch there, this one to me is loaded with games to watch. The Iowa Clemson should be great. Bennett Sturts and Iowa, I think, can get by Clemson on that one. And then you get McNeese and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt maybe a little bit slighted, feeling like they should have been a higher seed. They make it to the SEC championship game. But McNeese is interesting. They got a kid named Javon Garcia, and he had 31 points in the Southland Conference championship game, making all kinds of tough shots. So that one's interesting. And Troy against Nebraska. Troy is really good. If you haven't heard of Troy, they played a triple overtime game against USC back when USC was legit. They've beaten San Diego State in double overtime. So they've played 2 pretty good teams in the non-con. They beat Furman, who's an NCAA tournament team. So I think Troy is an interesting matchup for Nebraska for a team and a program that's never won an NCAA tournament game. That one's interesting. I think Nebraska's good enough to win that, but those 3 games right there are all fun, I think. And then a little further down, you get VCU, North Carolina. I'm picking VCU to win that one. No Caleb Foster for North Carolina. VCU, they get it up in your space. They got athletes to play with North Carolina. Penn and Illinois is fun. Illinois, the 3 seed, Penn 14, but Penn is coached by former Iowa coach Fran McCaffrey, and he has a 6'9" shooter named TJ Powers, and he had a phenomenal game in the Ivy League championship game, and he can shoots it over 40% from 3. So St. Mary's, Texas A&M, also going to be a pretty good game. Buckyball versus the grinded out defense of Randy Bennett at St. Mary's. So I think that South region has got tons of great matchups in the first round. Again, I'm taking the 11 over the 6 and VCU over North Carolina in the South region. Let's move up into the right into the Midwest region. Arizona, top seed there. Villanova, Utah State. Utah State, another team that feels a little bit slighted, like they probably should have been seated a little higher. I like the Aggies a lot. This one also, the 5-12 and the 4-13 are interesting. 5 Wisconsin against 12 High Point. Should be a shootout. I expect that to be a high scoring game. Wisconsin, I think, gets it done. And then Arkansas, Hawaii. Again, I loved Hawaii going in, but Arkansas is playing fantastic. Darius Acuff looks like maybe the second best player in the tournament right now. So that Wisconsin-Arkansas game in round 2 should be awesome. And then you get BYU playing, the first 4-11. So that was going to be NC State and Texas. I think BYU has a chance to make it a few rounds here, maybe even the Elite 8. I think they're better than Gonzaga. So if BYU and Gonzaga both win their first round matchup, they'll get each other. I like BYU in that one. And then Miami, Missouri, Purdue, and Queens. So in that region, I mean, I don't know about great games, but Villanova, Utah State is intriguing. Utah State is very good, and I think they're going to win that in that game. Not much of an upset there. Otherwise, I want chalk in this region because I want that Arkansas-Wisconsin second round matchup. Lastly, let's go down to the Midwest. Michigan is the top seed there. Couple interesting games here. Georgia, St. Louis. St. Louis looked really good for most of the year. Kind of stumbled a little bit late in the season. They weren't as effective. Even the VCU game they won at home, they kind of stumbled in that one out of the gates and had to make a big comeback. And granted, they did make the big comeback, but they're also 4-4 in their last 8. So little curious about St. Louis. I was super high on them probably about beginning mid of February, and then since then they've lost 4. So we'll see how they shake out against Georgia. I like Georgia in that one. SEC. Texas Tech, Akron. Now, Texas Tech, no JT Toppin. The Zips are dangerous. If you were going to pick a 12 over a 5, I think this is the one to go. I love Texas Tech normally. Christian Anderson, Lawan Watts, Atwell can shoot it, but Akron, very good team as well. Totally capable of winning that game. And then Alabama Hofstra. Alabama's losing their starting guard. Aiden Holloway's out. Hofstra, uh, they present some unique challenges as well. So that one I think is really interesting. So those two games there, the 4 and the 5, would love to see some shockers in that Midwest region. I think the 4 and the 5 both are in some trouble. And then you get down in the other end of the bracket, Kentucky, Santa Clara. That's another one I'm excited to watch. I've loved Santa Clara all year. Christian Hammond, outstanding guard. Alan Graves, uh, 6'9" big man, starting to get some NBA talk. A lot of people picking Santa Clara over Kentucky. I think it's going to be a good game either way, and I could see that going either way. Kentucky's loaded with talent, but Santa Clara's just feels like a team that's really, really good and really solid, and not going to beat themselves. Coached by Herb Sendek, longtime college basketball coach. So that's a quick look around the different regions and the games that I'm looking out for. I think this year is going to be absolutely phenomenal. There's 5 seeds that people are picking in the Final Four. 4 seeds are great. 3 seeds are good. Like this, just up and down. There are some great games. So, hoping for some fireworks in the first round, but second round we should definitely get some excellent, excellent games. High caliber teams going head to head. All right, Gopher Women get to host a first and second round matchup at Williams Arena this weekend. They play Friday against Green Bay. And to break down the bracket and how the Gophers are going to look this weekend, Andrew Dukowitz from Zone Coverage. Andrew, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Nice to have postseason basketball to talk about again. Been a minute since the Lynx were in the playoffs, but here we are. The Gophers women kind of surprised a lot of people, I think, this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting that top 4 seed was huge. It seems like it's been a while since they played. I mean, they got ousted their first game in the Big Ten tournament. Um, I mean, that's a little bit longer layoff than I feel like most coaches would want. How do you think that the team is preparing, I guess, for this game on Friday?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. They had their last bye before the regular season finale against Illinois, too. So they have a week off. They play Illinois. 5 days later, they get knocked out of the Big Ten tournament, and then they have another week and a half off. So I think, in a
Yeah.
sense, that's been a little bit of like a blessing for them. Like Tori McKinney got banged up in that Big
Hmm.
Ten tournament game. Sophie Hart has been kind of dealing with on and off stuff. Mara Braun, any rest you can give to her in a Maya battle when they're playing 38 minutes a night is probably a good thing. But I mean, I think they're feeling really good about the Green Bay matchup. I mean, comes out this morning that they're 22.5 point favorites. They're playing at 5
Yeah.
p.m., so it's not like a weird tip time for them. And I saw earlier today that the only seating available left in the barn is behind the opponent's bench and the upper level. So they're probably going to have that
Wow.
thing, maybe an attendance record for the women for this season. Yeah, they're stoked. I do think Dawn as a coach kind of performs best when she can have a lot of time to prepare, just because they are a very deep oriented team. So when she can give time to kind of really pick apart tape and really kind of put things out there for the players to see, I think it'll help them quite a bit. The weird thing is, though, they take care of Green Bay and then they play again, 2 days later on Sunday, and it's off to the races. So I think the
Hmm.
preparation helps them in the first round, but after that, I mean, you watch a lot of March Madness in college. It's kind of anyone's guess after that first slate of games.
Yeah, and even, Green Bay, I was looking into them a little bit. I mean, they've played some teams and been competitive. So like even that game, um, you know, preparing for them, they played NC State, they beat Kansas State, they played Wisconsin this year, lost by 4, which the Gophers kind of smoked, but they kept it close with Washington too. So I mean, that's what's great, I guess, about March Madness versus a professional league is it's this complete urgency and a one and done. You brought up the crowd though, and I was curious because you got Ole Miss. long way to travel. Gonzaga, a long way to travel. This seems like, the Minnesota crowd will probably fill in early and be rooting for Gonzaga to upset Ole Miss in that first game on Friday as well, if it's that full for sure, huh?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's gonna be rocking. I was kind of surprised tickets opened up at 10 a.m. today, and I was kind of surprised when I went and looked at like 3 that most of the lower level was sold out and upper level was already selling. But I mean, they haven't hosted in 20 years. Like this is a kind of monumental
Yeah.
thing for this program. I mean, you look at the team they have, it's a lot of kids that are from Minnesota. I mean, Sophie Hart obviously didn't start her college career here, but transferred back home. Mara and Amaya both kind of came to the Gophers with hopes of revitalizing this program. Tori McKinney, obviously local. I think there is just a lot of interest in this team in the city. And then also you buy a ticket and you get to go to a March Madness game. Like that's pretty cool as well.
Mhm.
Sense I kinda get from the Gophers, though, is I don't think they really care who they match up with in the second game. Like, I think they
Okay.
feel pretty good against Ole Miss. You know, the
Yeah.
Gophers have really kinda led with their defense all season. I mean, they've been just an impeccable defense. I don't have the numbers directly offhand because we planned this a little short notice, peek behind the curtain. But I mean, there were multiple quarters this year where they had more turnovers forced than baskets allowed. And not
Yeah.
just against bad teams. They did it against UCLA, they did it against Ohio State.
Mhm.
I mean, this team is exceptionally disciplined on defense. And then offensively, it's a different person every night. I mean, they have 6 people in double figures scoring. Mara Braun has really kind of turned it on as of late in the season, started getting her shot to fall again. Sophie Hart has had some of her best games towards the end of the season. They can kind of go inside or out. They play a lot of like 3 guard lineups with like 2 bigs that I think is
Mhm.
interesting. We haven't even mentioned like Grace Grishowski, who's already being mocked as a
Right.
WNBA player next season. I
Yeah.
I think they like their chances in these first 2 rounds, regardless if it's Gonzaga or Ole Miss. Green Bay, interesting
Yeah.
though. They have I think it was Chris Long that tweeted out, but Gonzaga or not Gonzaga, Green Bay has 6 Minnesotans on their team as well, so they might get a pretty
Mm.
good showing at the barn.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be a very, 10% green, 90% maroon
Yeah,
in that building Friday.
and quick
One thing
correction,
I
5 scores in double figures.
Okay,
Briley Glenn didn't make it.
got it. Still, I mean, you get double figures from 5 players, that's gonna add up pretty quickly to a decent amount. Like you said, their defense has been so good all year. Um, One thing I noticed in that Ohio State game is it seemed like Ohio State's quickness on the perimeter really bothered them. They weren't letting them kinda swing the ball, get multiple, rotations, and they just kinda guarded the ball and forced them to kinda try to beat them one-on-one, and the Gophers seem to struggle with that. Um, I'm guessing Green Bay doesn't have the athletes that Ohio State does. And Ole Miss and Gonzaga, from what I've seen, don't force a ton of turnovers. But looking ahead, the next matchup would be UCLA. So, number 2 team in the country, 1 loss on the year. Gophers hung tight for a while, but eventually kinda got blown out. What is, UCLA, obviously they're a tough matchup for everybody, but what's the game plan if you see UCLA in the Sweet 16?
I mean, that's the tough one, right? Like UCLA, I think has 7 people mocked to be drafted into the WNBA this season. That's their entire starting lineup and 2 bench players. Lauren Betts is like a 6'5" inside dominant rebounding scorer. I think that's where the Gophers probably their Cinderella story, if there is one of this season, that's probably where it gets tripped up just because
Mhm.
that team on a talent standpoint is just vastly superior to the Gophers. And I don't feel bad saying that. I think most of the Gophers would feel okay saying that as well. I mean, the fun thing with
Yeah,
March Madness, though, is if Mara Braun goes 7 or 8 from threes, kind of anything can happen. But that
right.
UCLA team, I mean, the length they have, the scores they have, the talent they have, they're well coached. It was close for 3 quarters when the Bruins came to the barn earlier this year. A lot of that was due to Lauren Betts getting into foul trouble pretty early. But even
Mhm.
then, Rice was able to just kind of decimate the Gophers off of pick and rolls and getting into the mid-range. The Gophers are gonna have a chance against anyone because the defense is so good, but the offense this entire year has just gone through these patches where they almost kinda look like they freak themselves out, like they get a couple open looks and they don't fall, and then the ball just starts to get a little bit more hectic. People start looking to
Mhm.
pass a little bit too much, in my opinion, and it ends up being
Yeah.
like a lot of Sophie Hart when that starts to happen, which nothing against Sophie Hart, but, they have legitimate, really good guard and wing players around her. It'll kind of be a test to see how they match up against UCLA. Unfortunately, if they draw them and that's the next lineup, it probably doesn't go much further than Sweet 16. But again, someone goes 7 for 8 from 3, and that's why March Madness is always fun because you never really know. It's especially the way the game is played now, where the shooting variance across all of college basketball is so drastic, where, like, if one team just shoots 60% from 3, they can kinda upset anyone regardless of who it is,
Mhm.
but we'll
Right.
see. I think a Sweet 16 would be a heck of an accomplishment for this program, though.
100% agree. I think every fan would be pretty satisfied with that. Expectations weren't super high. I think, they had a lot of returners this year, but getting to the Sweet 16 is a great accomplishment. And I think a great example of what Don brings to the Gophers, just like some stability, definitely an image or a style that you can say, like, I know exactly what they're trying to do. And I think
Mhm.
that's one thing that as you look at teams like that have a personality, a lot of times they take that on from their coach, and the Gophers have done that this year for sure. I wanted to ask you about something because I think the last time we were on, or maybe we were talking about it off air some other time, but the Gophers are ninth in the net and they're eighth in Bart Torvik, and so like those are like 2 seed, 3 seed ranges typically for like a if you're grading teams out. Um, what And, I mean, 4 seed is fine. I think they were happy to get that 4. They could host that grouping there, but, like, what is it you think about, like, some of these metric I don't know how much of a metrics guy you are, but, like, it seems like they grade out super high, even higher than even, like, the perceived, expectations of them are.
I mean, that's a testament to how good this team is. Like, I do think that 22-point favorite over Green Bay is like, that should be
Yeah.
the expectation that they blow them out. I honestly the expectation for them should be to beat Old Miss. I mean, it just should be. They are a team of that caliber. I've been kind of struggling with it all season, the net rating stuff, because the net rating seems to meet the eye test. Like, this team has a
Mm.
double overtime loss against Maryland. They beat Ohio State. They beat Iowa. They beat, forgetting the other team that the USC they beat. Like, they've had a
Mhm.
good, like, body of work beating ranked teams, and they've also kind of handled business against the unranked teams as well. Like, Wisconsin didn't necessarily put up much of a fight at all. Like, Illinois, the game was close, didn't really feel close. The non-conference games, any of them that weren't kind of a blue blood school like Kansas, got pretty much blown out of the water by this Gophers team. I do think there is a little bit of, when it comes to like the top 25 polls and stuff like that, like, if you're an LA writer for the AP, you're probably not watching a lot of Gophers basketball. Like, same if you're on the East Coast, you're probably watching a lot of
Mhm.
Connecticut, Big East. If you're down in the SEC area, you're probably watching a lot of that. And like the Big Ten writers, you have UCLA, you have Washington, you have Ohio State, you have Michigan, like you have other teams that are kind of above the Gophers. So I think the Gophers kind of get disrespected just from like where they are geographically. And then also the Big Ten is just obnoxious at this point with talent. I think they should have been closer to that 10, 11, 12 rating by the end of the season. I think that's what the resume led up to. I think they have the talent and the eye test met that, but it's just not how it shook out. And then you look at the tournament. I also kind of think they should have been a 3 seed, but I don't think, like you said, I don't think they're complaining about it. I do think that what they've shown this year is that this is going to be something that continues on, though. Like, I don't
Hmm.
think, you look at this team where Mara Braun has another year of eligibility. Tori's already an all Big Ten player. Grace makes all Big Ten honors and also is kind of being looked at as a WNBA potential player. Like, they're returning really good players for next year. I mean, they also, if the Minnesota Miss Basketball falls right, they will have the Miss Wisconsin, Miss Nebraska, and Miss Minnesota basketball players on their recruiting class for next year.
Hmm.
Like, I do think it's a credit to Don of just being able to build an identity and build a program. But I am with you. Like, the advanced ratings, if you're looking at the teams around the Gophers in that top 25 poll, it was a little stark by the end of the year where it's like, I don't know. The Gophers seem to have built a much better team than Tennessee, who is currently imploding.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I go through this every year and like there's some predictive metrics that kind of, you feel like they're overvaluing teams and undervaluing others. So it's always kind of a crapshoot to figure that all these rankings out and which ones matter. Some of them matter to get in, some of them matter for seeding. But yeah, like in the Bart Torvik one that I kind of follow, Duke's a 3 seed, they're ahead of them. Iowa's behind them, they're a 2 seed. Vanderbilt's the next one, they're a 2 seed. Then it's Louisville and they're a three.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, I guess whatever, go out and win the games, and none of it really matters at that point. But just kind of interesting how some of these teams can look good in certain areas, but not in others. But essentially, what you're telling me is we're still flyover country, and nobody cares about Minnesota.
I do think that I am a native born Minnesotan that roots for a lot of
Me too.
Minnesota sports teams. So, like, that is
Yeah.
part of my bias. I do think in college it is just the reality of it, though. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
a
There's
lot of
blue
those
bloods.
AP voters are on the coasts, and they're probably not watching a lot of Gophers basketball game if they can only catch one Big Ten game a week. They're watching
Yeah.
UCLA, they're watching Michigan, they're catching
Right.
more of the even Iowa, I think, since Caitlin Clark has kind of more like TV draw. And then you just see
Yep.
that, oh, Minnesota won again, and you file that back into your mind. Meanwhile, the people in the state who have been watching the team are just kind of like the hipsters of like, have you not heard this new
Mhm.
band yet? Like, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Andrew, you knew about the Gopher Women before anybody knew about how good they were going to be. So you're the cool kid in town with the tips. No, they've been awesome, man. I've watched more Gopher Women's this year than I have in a while, and I gotta be honest, it's pretty enjoyable. So, um, they open Friday. You said 5 p.m. is tip for their game.
Yep.
The Ole Miss Gonzaga's before that, correct? They're
Yes.
earlier.
Yep.
Okay, all right. And if you had to pick a winner, I'm gonna put you on the spot here just for some fun. Women's champion this year. UConn, UCLA, Don Staley get back in the mix at South Carolina? Who's it gonna be?
I got to watch that UCLA game against the Gophers, and just the amount of just sheer talent and size they have. I don't know how they don't win it. Like, I know,
Mm,
South Carolina kind of has the pedigree and the history of it, winning it recently. They have a cult following. AZ over in Yukon. Obviously, it's hard to ever count Yukon out, but just seeing that team in person and how, I mean, they have like 4 legit 6-footers that can all play together. They can score inside, outside. They have defense. I don't know how you handle them. I mean, other than
mhm.
just kind of hoping they go off, have an off night shooting. So I'm
Yeah,
picking UCLA. That's what my bracket is shaking out to, which pains me as a Gophers reporter to have them not get the Gophers out. But
yeah,
yeah, they are just such a talented team that it's hard for me to see another team being able to even just like size wise match up with them, let alone kind of match up with their physicality and just skill.
I do think, the '04 Lindsay Whalen, Janelle McCarville team was also a 4 seed, if I remember right, and I'm pretty sure they knocked off Duke in the Sweet 16, who was the 1. If my rem I was younger then, I was in college, things might have got fuzzy, but just, maybe throwing that out there for some good vibes for this year's squad.
I mean, that is again, the best thing about March Madness is it just takes one person to go off. I mean,
Yeah,
UCLA can
absolutely.
play a perfect game, but if someone goes 7 for 8 from 3 and has 40 points, it's just you can't overcome that in college
Yeah,
sports. So there's a chance. I think a Sweet 16 bid for this program, even if it does end, without a championship, I think they're going to be looking back on this for a while.
yeah, absolutely. It's been a great year. They'll keep it going this weekend over at the barn. Let's quickly pivot over. I got 2 quick things I wanna ask you about because I know you do a lot of coverage for a lot of different things. WNBA, CBA, any update on where things stand between the league and the players?
Yeah, it's been a wild week. Ever since last week Tuesday, so I guess this is day 7 now. They have locked themselves in a hotel lobby or a hotel meeting room and have met for literally 12 hours every day. The league officials, the Players Association, Brianna Stewart, Fee's been there a few days, kind of the head players on the Players Association board and their kind of collective agents and stuff like that. I mean, everything that I've been hearing is it's going to be in the next day or two, which we're recording this Monday at 8 p.m. Might break by the time this episode is out, even. I
Mhm,
think, the frustration from like a media aspect and a fan aspect is why didn't this happen back in January, which I think is a completely fair kind of criticism, especially given like Fee didn't play in Unrivaled. Unrivaled did go up to New York. Onyeka, I think, didn't play every game in Unrivaled. Like, it doesn't seem like that was the issue with it, but now that they're actually having face-to-face meetings, it sounds like they've gotten literally everything hammered out from, non-compete clauses, if that is or is not going to happen, housing subsidies. Kind of the last thing they're still stuck on is the basketball related revenue share, which the players kind of
mm,
started off at around 40%. That was what they were asking for. They have dipped down quite a bit, down to about 26%. The most recent kind
oof,
of reporting has been. And the league started out at 8%. 1.2% lower than the players got paid last year based off of revenue sharing. They leaked a bunch of kind of whole numbers of what the cap would look like in millions of dollars. That has kind of stopped. I think the players
mm,
kind of requested that. I would assume just because it's kind of a bad faith, apples to oranges type of thing. But the league,
sure,
it sounds like it's closer to like 15, 18% revenue sharing, which now it's just how do you bridge that last 8 to 10% gap so that the players are, happy with it this year and moving forward. And the league is able to still kind of not save face, but I do think the league at this point does need to have kind of a, we won on this issue type of thing, especially given where Kathy's kind of employment has her employment speculation has been since the end
mhm.
of the WNBA season. But yeah, it's getting there. I do think we will see women's professional basketball this summer.
Well, that's good. I mean, coming off, exciting couple years, they got star power, they got kinda everything going in the right direction from a gameplay standpoint, and playoffs have been entertaining. So it'd be really too bad if something didn't get done and get accomplished before the start of the season because they tip off, is it April or May? Usually when the first games.
I believe April 28th was going to
Okay,
be the official like preseason game 1 tip off, which is usually a couple days into training camp. So like
sure.
mid-May is probably the official start. The one thing I will add, like this season is so important for the WNBA. Like, not only are they getting just a massive amount of money, like television rights on the old CBA between Ion and local TV rights was at $40 million. The Amazon, Disney, ESPN deal alone is worth $210 million just
Mm,
for next season. They also have a 100+ million deal with USA Network and ABC. They also have the Ion deal and locals still. I mean, on television rights alone, it's supposed to go from about 40 million to maybe up to 4 to 500 million this next year. Like, to throw away that much money over 8% of basketball related revenue sharing
yeah.
seems ludicrous. And then, kind of looking further into the future, baseball is kind of hurling towards a lockout in 2027. So this summer, if they're able to continue growing off of that momentum, they're going to be on more TVs. USA Network is going to have Women's Sports Wednesdays, where it's going to be literally like a TNT broadcast where it's 3 games, one after another. ESPN is doing Women's Sports Sundays during the summer to replacing their baseball slot that they had. I mean, if they can get enough momentum and baseball locks out in 2 years, I mean, there's a world where the WNBA can kind of pass baseball in that summer viewership slot, which I mean, when I'm looking at it, that's kind of where this whole lockout thing to me has been really nerve-wracking, is like, there is a golden opportunity if they just kind of
Hmm.
continue on their current path. Because you're right, they have the star power, the play is entertaining, they have really likable talents, they have kind of a array of talent, whether you're like a Caitlin Clark, an Asia Wilson, Paige Beckers, a Nafisa Collier fan. They have
Hmm.
teams that are like universally despised, like the Aces. It's they kind of have everything in there to kind of
Yeah.
explode this. But first they have to sign it, which that's what we're all still waiting on.
Yeah. Well, if this comes out before the news breaks, make sure you follow Andrew to break that news. But hopefully, it gets done before we get published here with this episode of the podcast. Last thing I wanted to ask you about. It's been some late nights covering the Wolves, doing your post game pods when they were out west. They get home. They got 3 in a row, I think, at home. Clippers this week. Um, I c maybe just a general question. What are the vibes like right now, both on your post-game podcast and with the fans and with the team?
Yeah, fans are a little ticked off. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think you look at this Wolves team and they have just so much talent that the way they lose is so frustrating for fans, because you're looking at a team that openly states they don't follow the game plan all the time, that they don't bring in the right energy and effort. And when you're looking at these supreme athletes that should be able to just take care of the Lakers, and then after the game, it's, yeah, we didn't really follow the game plan, our energy and effort wasn't there. I think part of that, it's charming that they're being honest, I guess, but also like it's kind of just like a thumb to the fans of like, we're not putting in the effort, which I always hesitate to call out opposing players' effort, or, anyone's effort, because like, I don't know, like some days I don't put in the best effort at my day job. Like, I think it's just
Mm,
the reality of having a job is there's some days that are better than others.
sure.
But, like, when the players are calling it out themselves, I think it kinda opens it up to fair game. I mean, vibes around the team, I haven't seen them since they left for that West Coast trip. They're gonna have shoot around
Okay.
tomorrow, so I'll be in Mayo Clinic Square and poking around, bugging people tomorrow and have a better answer. But, I mean, the one thing with this team is they are like a vibes-based team. So I think based off of them losing 4 out of 5, I would wager a guess that they're feeling kinda down and feeling that sense of urgency. But the other thing with this team, I mean, they play 3 games in 4 nights. I could easily see them ripping off 3 wins in a row, going to Boston and beating Boston, and then the vibes are immaculate again. I
Yeah.
think ultimately, I think they're just ready for the playoffs to start. I think this group just needs to finish the season however it's going to finish and kind of go from there, whether it's a roster change, whether it's, as fans have been voicing a coaching change. I'm kind of doubtful on the coaching side, but I do think the end finale of this season does kind of just need to happen for this group of guys, whether it's good or bad. I think the just sitting here week after week riding this roller coaster, even for the players, is nauseating at times.
That's fair. It's kind of been that way for at least for me. I'll speak for myself, but it's just I find it hard to get into because you lose it 2 in LA, you beat the Warriors, which was still ugly, and then I fully expected them to like come in and show up and play Oklahoma City tough, and they kind of did, but it was still a very I would say uninspiring effort mentally and physically. Like just the turnovers, like Rudy had that weird behind the back pass that what got stolen or but through the legs thing that he does, and I was like, "What is I know he's made it before, but Ant had some defensive, um, I'll just say like, Olay defense, right? So it's hard, and I think that you're right, like fans, maybe this is a Steve Kerr endorsement of the 72 game season or something because it does seem like it's not just the Wolves, it's the load management, it's a lot of things, and so it just, this time of year feels kinda like last year was different though, last year you geared up.
Yeah.
Now it feels like we're gearing down a little, so who knows? It's a mercurial team that you just I feel like you can never put a finger on it.
Yeah, I mean, the Oklahoma City game is kind of the epitome of how talented this group is, right? Like they're down 2 going into the fourth quarter. Ant's having an awful game. Rudy had maybe the worst game of the season. I mean, Dante wasn't hitting a ton of shots. Jaden only played like 10 minutes. Nas had a
Yeah,
pretty terrible game. Bones didn't have a good game, and they're down 2 to the best team in the West. And then the wheels just kind of fall off, which,
mhm,
that unfortunately I think is, I mean, I said it on my post game show, but like Ant goes 1 for 8 in the third quarter and kind of evaporates a lead by himself, just kind of trying to get himself going. And then by the time they go back
mhm,
to Julius, Julius is cooled off from his great start. And then it's just, you don't really have anything to throw at the wall anymore. But yeah, I feel for fans the most because, I mean, for me, it's, I get to talk to these guys. I enjoy being around the team. Like, it's like a blessing to be able to cover the team. I mean, for fans, it's just when you have to stay up until 1 in the morning to watch a basketball game and work the next day, like, that sucks. That sucks when they don't bring the energy because, like, now you're not going to have energy for the next day.
yeah. Well, you just gotta listen to your post-game pods, you kinda feel you feel like, I usually feel better
Hmm.
after those, it's you kinda get that cathartic, misery loves company at times, so hopefully they can turn it around. Andrew, we covered a lot of ground. I love talking to you because we got Wolves, Lynx, Gopher Women, it's always a treat, so I appreciate you being here. I'll let you plug any coverage or other things you wanna do, socials, you go through your socials, let everybody know where they can find you.
Oh gosh, as quickly as possible, I'm a Duke MN on all socials, ADUKEMN. Cover the Gophers, Wolves, and Lynx with credentials. So a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I put out, player interviews, dudes practicing, stuff that I as a fan wanted and no one really put out. So I do it now. Do have a post game Wolves and Lynx podcast. Airs right after games over on YouTube and X. It's the Missing Wolves for the Wolves, Missing Lynx for the Lynx. You can also catch me on Fox 9 every once in a while on Amy Hockert's All Day Live show. So always appreciate it when people pay attention to that show and look for my name. And then I'm also, I join the K-Fan Worst Case Scenario show pretty often over on K-Fan. So same thing. Call-ins and text-ins always help me get more spots and they welcome me back. So anytime people are
Nice.
paying attention to that, I appreciate it. And then the stuff that I probably put the most time into is my written work. That's all over on Zone Coverage. Usually comes out Wednesdays and Saturdays. I try to have a little bit of fun, really nerdy stat stuff, but then you get some office references and wrestling references. So yeah, appreciate you having me on though, man. Anytime. I love talking
Yeah,
hoops.
absolutely. I think I'm on your podcast, coming up in a few weeks. I think we got a Wolves post game to discuss, so we'll dive in more then at that time. I think, right around Final Four time, so I'll be winding down the March Madness coverage, which I'll be heavily invested in here for the next couple of weeks, but appreciate you coming on, appreciate the insight, and we'll catch up later, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Steve.
All right, that is the show today. I want to thank Andrew Dukowitz from Zone Coverage for joining me to talk about Gopher women's basketball. We had a little bit of the links and the WNBA CBA situation, as well as Timberwolves quick thoughts. Good news on the Timberwolves. They win on the 17th here Tuesday. They beat the Suns tonight. Look pretty comfortable. So maybe we're right in the ship here, just in time for a playoff push. We'll see how next game goes. There's ebbs and flows with this team. So, Gopher women tip off Friday at 5 o'clock against Green Bay. They are the 4 seed in their region, and the next time we talk, it'll be opening round of 64, March Madness officially kicking off. I'll be at Back Channel Brewing again, 5 to 7 p.m. on Thursday, March 19th. Thank you for being here. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave a review. Follow the podcast on Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. Anything you can do to help out would be great. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you enjoying the basketball conversations that I have. So thanks again, everyone. This has been the Splash City Basketball Podcast.